As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission, I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain, keep on working, open curtains. Hating swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. I'm never gonna give up, fall down, I just gotta get up.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHH LP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.
Good morning, everybody, and good morning, Harry, to you. It's good to see you. And we are a community radio station, but thanks to WNHH and the internet and innovation and just people understanding that technology can be a benefit, we also are broadcasting worldwide. So we do have listeners from throughout the United States and through other parts of the world. I say that because the topics that we choose might perceive to be locally based or Connecticut based, but really they pertain to wherever you might be on the planet. So, we talked about prostate cancer so often as a stereotype, but this show is about the reality of the Fatherhood Initiative program that the state of Connecticut is operating. And we have Anthony Judkins who's on the show. Anthony's a program manager of the JSM Fatherhood Initiative. I have Honorable Michael Ferguson also he's the Chief Family Support Magistrate. And also Reverend Perry and Reverend Clayton and Dr. John Crystal. So you might be wondering, what does this motley crew of people have to do with the Fatherhood Initiative? Well, we're going to weave it together. We're going to weave it together so that we can all understand what a Fatherhood Initiative program is, not just from a bureaucratic standpoint, but from a heart, mind, and soul standpoint. Harry, let's kind of kick off with the video that Anthony Judkins is profiled in. And some of you might remember Anthony from his Sacred Heart days of basketball. He's being installed in terms of the New England Basketball Hall of Fame. Yes, I'm dropping some stuff on Anthony, but his real passion and his real dribbling the ball and just kind of keeping things afloat and really coaching and inspiring people is a Fatherhood Initiative program that he's involved with. So let's go to the short video. And we normally do not do this, but it's important for people to really understand. I want you to kind of feel that the passion that Anthony conveys, where fatherhood is not just a one day in the year situation, but a 365, 24/7, 365 endeavor. So Harry, let's kind of key it up and let's hear from Anthony. Okay, Harry, if you can hear me, I believe that the sound is not coming through.
What was that, Tom?
I don't believe the sound is coming through.
Oh, you didn't get the sound?
We're not hearing the sound, so we may have to restart. And I apologize, everyone, about the technical issues.
Happy Father's Day. I realize the date we're told to celebrate the role fathers play in our children's lives is usually the third Sunday in June. But I view every day as Father's Day, so happy Father's Day. First and foremost, I'd like to say I'm a proud father of three amazing young men. AJ, who's 33, Chase, 18, and Olivier, who's 15 years old. I would like to share briefly my experiences as a son, a father, and a professional in this field, and how these experiences have had a profound impact on my work at DSS. At DSS, I'm responsible for the administration of Connecticut's Fatherhood Initiative, which is a broad-based, multi-agency, statewide effort led by the Department of Social Services. The focus of the Fatherhood Initiative is on changing systems that can improve the ability of fathers to be fully and positively involved in the lives of their children. The programming arm of the initiative serves more than 700 individuals annually. The fathers involved in that program have an average age of 33 and have an average of 2 children. Some of the barriers to their engagement are low education levels, criminal history, unemployment, lack of housing, child support debt, lack of transportation, and mental health and substance abuse issues, as well as food insecurities. For more information about the Connecticut Fatherhood Initiative, please visit our website at www.ct.gov/fatherhood. I'm the oldest of 4 children. My mom gave birth to me when she was 16 years old. My biological father wasn't engaged in my life in a consistent way. And I make the distinction that he's my biological father, not my dad, because there are many men in fathering roles who don't have biological ties to children they're raising, like my stepdad, who I call dad to this day. However, I want to share with you my experiences with my biological father, because I believe the interactions we had and didn't have influenced my understanding of fatherhood over the years. I first met my biological father at a chain store when I was in 2nd or 3rd grade. I remember the
Harry, I think we better just go to the conversation, and since we have the pleasure of Mr. Judkins being here, he can fill in the blanks. All right, everybody. Sorry for the inconvenience, and something we were experimenting with. And I wanted to show it, and I'll post the link to the video for people to watch it afterwards. But Anthony, again, this is the Tom Ficklin Show, Fatherhood Initiative program we're kind of kicking off. And Honorable Michael Ferguson is with us, Anthony Judkins, Drummond Crystal, Reverend Dr. Leroy O. Perry Jr., and the Reverend Elvin Clayton. But Anthony, I saw some people refer to you as Tony and some as Anthony. Does it depend on the maturity level, or whether they're taller than you or shorter than you?
Yeah, well, my mom usually calls me Anthony, and people in between call me Tony, but it doesn't matter to me.
All right, well, we're going to call you Tony, Anthony, Tony. You know, I'm trying to be a little jovial, because it's so easy to kind of be depressed and think about the stress that's on all of us at the moment in terms of this global pandemic. But again, that's where a show like this, in terms of fatherhood and reaching out and supporting folks, is so important. So we're going to hear, Anthony, I want you to talk a little bit, maybe throw in a little bit about the video that we did not see, and just a brief overview of some of your responsibilities. And then we'll jump to Honorable Michael L. Ferguson. And Michael, I haven't seen you in a while, but I love saying the honorable. I don't think you were an honorable then. I think you were just a lay person of the bar. But now, since you're a Chief Family Support Magistrate, and just people might say, what does that have to do with the Fatherhood Initiative? And then Dr. Crystal, free to kind of chat in terms of your responsibilities at Yale, as well as your responsibilities at the hospital and at the Clinical Mental Health Center, at the Yale Center for Clinical Investigation. And Reverend Perry and Reverend Clayton have been involved with the Cultural Ambassadors Program through the Yale Center for Clinical Investigation. And what does that have to do with the Fatherhood Initiative program? But I think the key is for people to see that it truly takes a village to raise humanity. And this is certainly a village effort. So Anthony, jump in and share a little bit.
Sure. So you want me to talk about the video first?
Yes, just give us a little highlight of what we missed, but also then.
Yeah. So the video really talks about. First of all, let me just go back. So I was approached by the Office of Skill Development at the Department of Social Services, which is our training unit, and they thought, hey, we'd like to create some sort of training tool for our staff, as well as to inspire to inspire those who seek services from us. So we came up with these signature stories. There were 3 signature stories, and I was selected to do one on fatherhood. And for me, that was a pretty easy thing to do. You know, I wanted to express myself around this issue from being a son, being a father, as well as being a professional in the field, and talk about, you know, some of the things that, you know, that are struggles for guys. Lots of times as men, we don't like to talk about our feelings or share a lot of things that we think are, you know, make us feel soft or something like that. But I'm going to talk about it from those 3 different perspectives, and how I am still learning as a man today about fatherhood. You know, fatherhood is tough. It's not an easy thing. There are no instructions when that baby comes. There are no instructions attached to that baby to say, hey, this is how you be a father. So that's where I was coming from in the video. One of the things that I really want to do is I really want to take the time to thank you, Tom, and as we appreciate the opportunity to provide a high-level overview of the Connecticut Fatherhood Initiative. One of the things that I think, you know, folks don't know, and I'd like to express first and foremost, I'd like to say that the efforts of the Connecticut Fatherhood Initiative are not done at the expense of mothers. Children are at the heart of this collaborative effort at the state and local level. We focus our supports for fathers, not just to assist them in their fathering role, but also to support mothers and children. It's not an either or situation. We don't take services from mom to get to dad or vice versa. The bottom line, we feel the best way to help children succeed and have better outcomes is to support both their parents, whether they live with their children or not. And we say that because a lot of the programs, assistance programs at our department and others, sometimes they're based on whether or not you live with the child. So we want to make sure that, you know, it doesn't matter whether they live with their children or not. We want to support everyone. The initiative is a broad-based statewide collaborative effort led by the Department of Social Services. It's focused on systems change that can really improve a father's ability to be fully and positively involved in the lives of their children. The goal of the initiative is really simple. It's to promote the positive involvement and interactions of fathers with their children. The initiative began with legislation. Legislation was passed with bipartisan support in the fall of 1999 after state and local leaders continue to see children who've been impacted by father absence. Legislation was comprehensive and instructive. For example, it named the Department of Social Services as lead agency and identified numerous stakeholders on the advisory council as it outlined a research and demonstration program with 3 pilot sites to focus on father engagement from 3 different perspectives. Also, Connecticut was the first state in the nation to pass such legislation. The initiative is really, like, folks ask, well, what is the initiative about? Who's part of the initiative? Well, as lead agency for the initiative, our department's commissioner was charged with establishing this broad-based council of stakeholders to assist in planning and implementing statewide activities to support the initiative. And that was done in 1999. So 21 years later, our advisory council continues to meet on a quarterly basis. I think that's quite a feat when, you know, if you've been around the business as long as I have at the state level, a lot of initiatives come and go. So this has been able to stick, and we're very happy to say that, you know, we're still doing that work. Who are our partners in the initiative? Well, the Department of Social Services really never approached this as an agency-specific endeavor. As a systems change effort, our state and local partners' active involvement has been critical for any successes in what the collaborative has set out to do for Connecticut's fathers and families. Our partners in the initiative include membership from all three branches of state government, as well as experts from the domestic violence field, legal aid, United Way of Connecticut, and numerous community-based agencies serving fathers, families, and children.
Excellent. Let me just, because I want you to give us the whole scenario, and because I have some I'm going to give you a chance for some closing remarks as well, so also to interact with what's been happening. Honorable Michael Ferguson, share with how Anthony and Tony has said, what's your role? I mean, how's the legal system get involved here? I mean, you're a nice guy. I believe you were a nice guy when I first saw you 10 years ago. But what's the chief magistrate? What's your interconnection in this regard?
Well, good morning, Tom. And first, I'd like to thank you for having me on your program this morning. Well, as the Chief Family Support Magistrate, I'm in charge of the Family Support Magistrate Court throughout the state of Connecticut. And with that, we have 9 full-time magistrates, and then we have referees, which are magistrates that retire. And there's a misnomer about the magistrate court. People, I hear cases every day all throughout the state of Connecticut, and the first thing I hear is, she put me on child support. That's not the case. The Family Support Magistrate Court deals with paternity issues, establishing child support, modifying the child support, and enforcing the child support. So a lot of times, like for example, when a father comes in and there's a reason he's not paying child support for whatever reason. The stereotype with family court support magistrate court, they think that you go to court, you're going to go to jail. That's not the case. Most of the time when you come to court, there are these diversionary programs that we use, and the one that we all use throughout the state of Connecticut is a Father Initiative program. And so a lot of times the father is not paying child support because there's other issues such as housing. He doesn't know how to parent. He may have employment issues. And so what we do is throughout the state, we refer that father to a Familyhood Initiative program. For example, in Waterbury, we refer to New Opportunities with Dr. Perry. In fact, in Waterbury, on contempt days, which are basically enforcement days where the father is not paying child support, rather than incarcerate, which is the last resort, and that seldom happens. We refer them to Dr. Perry at New Opportunities, and then his program, once they go to that program, will continue the case for about 30 days or so, and then Dr. Perry will come back to court and they'll give a report. How's this person doing? Is he engaging? Is he trying to do what's right? And a lot of times we find out that that particular person never worked, and so his earning capacity is really zero. And so through the Father Initiative program, especially in Waterbury, it's a great program, they're able to get some type of help with this individual and possibly employment. And so the court system is involved quite a bit because a lot of people, especially with the father programs that they're in, and again, this is throughout the state, the thing that they say most of the time is, oh, child support. They're going to put me on child support. I'm going to be in court. It's not that way. Maybe in the past, years ago, but now we are not a division of a court where we just incarcerate. Our goal is to get the father employed to start making the child support.
Excellent. Reverend Perry and Reverend Clayton, maybe chip in, because again, we have a piece of legislation that's been passed. It's been around for a few decades. We have governmental oversight, et cetera. But it seems to me that the position that you are in, it's putting at last a human face on this. This is just not a bureaucratic procedure. This is for some people, and in some ways, a life and death and community prosperity situation.
Yes, Tom, I think that it's a collaborative effort on all of our parts. And I appreciate the fact that Yale YCCI is involved with us in this, because part of what our task is to get individuals to take charge of their health. And many of our dads come to us from having been incarcerated. They come with no, as Mike was saying, with no source of income, no real housing of their own, no possibility of being reintegrated back into a society that has already stigmatized them because of their record. So what we do here, I mean, Mike helps us because he doesn't put them back. He sends them to us, and we try to help them get a job. And New Opportunities has a program where we train, and we have a training program and a manufacturing program. So we can train them for 3 hours in the morning and give them work in the afternoon. Or we can hire them permanently as part of our Connecticut Manufacturing Assembly program under our director there, Goddess. And it gives an individual a second chance. One of the reasons we wanted Yale on this program is because some of these young men need help with depression. They need help with like just taking charge of their health and finding self-worth and value. And that's a very hard thing to establish in an individual who's been knocked down for a period of time and just have no self-worth. Mm-hmm. So we find these with young men in our churches. We find these with young men who just need coaching, who need mentoring. And that's a very difficult thing. We have dads in our program who got baby mamas, 4 or 5 baby mamas. And we're saying, how are you gonna handle 1 baby mama, much less handle 5? But you first got to teach them how to handle themselves and have respect for themselves and respect for women, and have a sense of self-esteem and self-worth and self-actualization. And I think it's a task that we together, along with the Fatherhood Initiative Program, the courts, and religious institutions and community, that we need to work together, because it's not the women right now, it's Black men that are the endangered species in America.
Reverend Perry, just mention, Dr. Crystal, just before I come to you in terms of your being the co-director of YC Yale Clinical Center for Clinical Investigation. Dr. Perry, you mentioned some of the references to some of the job training programs. Are there actually hands-on classes at all that you have in terms of engaging the fathers?
Well, right now we just started one here, and it's a manufacturing program. And so individuals, it's a 10-week program. Individuals learn about safety, about manufacturing, and at the same time, assembly, so they get hands-on experience. But Tom, one of the things that I wanted to just stress again is the part of how do we help these young individuals who, like we're talking about how people are afraid of taking the vaccine. Mm-hmm. We have young men who won't get a physical, young men who may be suffering from being bipolar or depression. How do we get them in to see someone? How do we help them to help themselves? And to me, if we can just help them realize what's going on with them, maybe we can help them blossom from late bloomers into great dads. Okay. And that's a hard thing to do. I mean, no one wants to be, if you've already been stigmatized, nobody wants to be stigmatized again by saying, oh, you're bipolar, or you suffer from mental illness. But many of these young men need some help. And I don't know how we can do that, particularly when we can't find physicians who look like us and who our community would trust with this kind of information that I think is so necessary for our survival and our healing process.
Well, Dr. Crystal, it seems to me that Reverend Perry's thrown out the challenge, thrown down the gauntlet. I mean, not really behind your back, but in your face. But let me say, as your lawyer, Dr. Crystal, I will say that I have some, well, I won't. He's trustworthy in my opinion. He's Dr. Fauci lookalike. So, but Dr. Crystal, just jump in and we'll forgive Dr. Perry for putting you on the spot so much.
Well, listen, I think I know Reverend Perry well enough to know that if he's raising this issue, it's an important issue for our community, and the things that he's talked about and the things that everybody's talked about, Mr. Judkins and others, are really just critical issues. That we have young men who are struggling in their own lives and who are trying to make sense of a very confusing world that they find themselves in. And if they have, on top of the difficulties that they're facing, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, bipolar disorder, if they struggle to manage how much they drink alcohol or use other substances, it can make the process of being a father, being connected to children, just an overwhelming challenge. If they have a difficult time managing themselves, how can they really help other people? And I completely agree with Reverend Perry that we have to figure out a way that people understand that getting help for problems that they know they have is a way of getting out of stigma, as opposed to a way to getting into stigma. I think one of the understandings that we have is that if you go for help for a problem, that you'll get the label. But the problem is that these young men are struggling with so many labels that people want to put on them that make them feel bad about themselves and make it harder for them to work on living up to being the good fathers that they can potentially be. So we hope that shows like this, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be on the panel today, will get the word out that if you want to be a good father, you need to take care of yourself. And that means sometimes going to your doctor. It means, sometimes if you need help, coming to a place like the Cornell Scott Hill Health Center or the Connecticut Mental Health Center or other places that are here to provide support. Reverend Perry said something very important that we take very seriously, which is that we want to make sure that we have people, when people come to those places for help, that they should see some people who look like them, so that they feel like there are people who understand their situation. And we're working on that. And we have clinics that are run entirely in Spanish, the Clínica Hispana, and we have increased the diversity of the training programs for the doctors, so that we're generating a new generation that comes from a broader variety of backgrounds, so we can do a better job of being a welcoming place for fathers when they need help.
Reverend Clayton, just before I come to you, I just wanted Dr. Crystal for you to kind of weave together. I want people to understand that when I see you in the various hats that you wear, the Yale Medical School, the Yale New Haven Hospital, the Connecticut Mental Health Center, Yale Center for Clinical Investigation, and even you have this word translational in your title. Share with people what that means, because your tentacles are wide, and your tentacles are wide. I mean, it's from beyond it's in the ground to the heavens. I mean, you see people when they're born, you see people when they die. I'm kind of rambling because the connection that when I see you and what you epitomize, talk to me about how that really relates then to male responsibility, to the fatherhood, to the growth of our society.
Sure. So I do wear a lot of hats, and the hats represent how the various institutions, the state, the university, the federal government are all working together on these kinds of issues. For example, the Department of Psychiatry, which is the doctors who are providing mental health support services to the Connecticut Mental Health Center, or at the Connecticut Mental Health Center, at Yale New Haven Hospital, at the VA Connecticut health system across the state of Connecticut. In all of those settings, we're providing the kinds of services that we talked about earlier. And you also mentioned the Yale Center for Clinical Investigation. And that's really a critical entity for the medical school and the hospitals that organizes and promotes and creates opportunity for people to get involved, to help us learn to do a better job at what we do, where we make the medical discoveries, where we're testing the COVID vaccines, where we're developing new ways to support fathers, where we're developing new treatments for depression and bipolar disorder. So research, which is really another word for testing, these new approaches, is a critical part of the Yale Center for Clinical Investigation. And we've been lucky to have the opportunity to work with Reverend Perry, Reverend Clayton, and others to make sure that the opportunities to get involved are available throughout the communities in New Haven, that for young Black men where it's appropriate to get involved in research and others.
Perfect. Anthony, I see you taking some notes there, and I want you to kind of share some of your wisdom, because you've been there for a few decades as well. And I mean, that's a tremendous tremendous testimony to your commitment. And then we'll go to Reverend Clayton.
Yeah, I think what everybody said is spot on. One of there's three things that I think are really key in all of this. It's information, right? Getting information out to the community, is educating ourselves about some of the issues. But first and foremost is trust. I know from the state level, I go in and talk to guys, they don't trust me right away because I'm from the state, and they have this mistrust for state agencies. That's why it's important that we have our programs in the community. I know that Dr. Perry, when he works with guys, it's all about trust. They come in, these guys are wounded, and they're just looking for help. But you have to build trust. And once you've built that trust, you can have these guys, you can get these guys to a point where they're trying to do better. They're looking for help. They're opening their ears to receive information. And that's the most important part. They're receiving the information once you've built that trust. So I think trust is paramount in all of this.
Thank you. Reverend Perry, I'm not sure if Reverend Clayton is still with us. I don't see his, but I just thought if he had any comments also. And also because I believe it's not only, although we know that Reverend Perry's operation is New Opportunities Waterbury is the best in the state, but there are some others. You're just not localized to Waterbury, correct? So where else are we operating?
Yeah, so we have state-funded programs. It was Waterbury, Dr. Perry's organization, but we have two in Bridgeport. One of them is a specific for teen dads, which is one in the state. We have programs in Norwich, Torrington, and where's the last one? Norrington, in New Haven. That's it, in New Haven.
Well, thanks for remembering us. I mean, that's really nice of you. This is WNHH 103.5, but no, it's good. Somebody get it. As long as we're on the team. We may not. But
the need is exponential. I mean, those are just a few communities. We'd love to see fatherhood really statewide in just about every community, but it's funding is always an issue.
Okay.
I think too, if I can just get this in, that the mere fact that we're on a radio station is going to help build that trust in the community. When people get to hear, like Tony, when they hear your story about your kids in Atlanta, when you go down there and they don't even call you dad, and how that makes you feel, but also not only is it humbling, but it brings you to a realization that to be a dad, you have to be in the lives of your children and how important that is. I think that when they see Mike in court and when they see Mike on the radio station, there's an ease that people will start to begin to trust those who are in places and institutions that they would normally be mistrustful of. So I think we need to do more of this. I think we need to be more visible. And I think we need to speak up more and speak out more in our community so people can see us and not think of us as an institution that's so bureaucratic that it does not really look at the human side of what we're trying to do. Because it's not about us, it's about the children, as you said, Tony. It's
Absolutely.
About families. And the Black family in America since the antebellum South has been under reconstruction. It has been broken up. It is like during slavery, you were not allowed to marry. You were not allowed to be a father. You could be a stud. You could be anything but a dad. And so it just seems to me that some of that history is starting to repeat itself. And we need to work to change that trajectory if we're going to build up strong Black men and strong Black families in America.
And indeed, Reverend Perry, I want to ask a follow-up question to that, to everybody, to Tony Anthony and to Honorable Michael L. Ferguson and Dr. Crystal, in terms of what Reverend Perry just articulated. We now are undergoing, whether it's COVID, whether it's flu, whether it's just political chaos, there's a new stage, I think, where the whole world is going through trying to determine what our existential existence might look like. And so more specifically, just to how are you been able to render these programs under this situation, under this COVID situation, under this virtual reality situation? How has it impacted your service delivery, so to speak?
All right, Tom, I guess I'll answer it. I just want to start off by saying that the Fatherhood Initiative program, at least in Connecticut, is much needed. It is a necessity. And I can't tell you how that program has helped hundreds, if not thousands, of young men throughout the state of Connecticut. I go up to Putnam, hear cases, New Haven, Bridgeport, Hartford. It's the same. Regardless of your race, religion, ethnicity, they have the same problems. And a lot of times by referring a father while they're in court to a Fatherhood Initiative program, the real issues are outlined, which is it could be health issues where the dyslexia or they are bipolar or something. And that Fatherhood Initiative program will send them to the appropriate agency. And that reduces the stigma for that person to go seek help on their own. They won't do it. But if a court orders it, then they will do it. In terms of me being on the bench, especially in Hartford and Bridgeport, immediately when I come out, they see me, I look like them, and there's a sense of, okay, maybe he will listen, or maybe he's not that bad. Although the result will be identical to my colleagues. It's just they feel a sense of, oh, I can take a breath, he's going to listen to me. In terms of what we're doing now, in terms of COVID, typically we have hundreds of cases throughout the state a week, each magistrate. Now, the way it's set up with virtual, we use Teams, as Tony mentioned earlier. We're limited to 10 cases a day. And that's been going on. And so it's all via video. And so I'll log on in the courtroom, but the parties will be elsewhere. And starting actually next week, we're going to try to do a block format so we can get up to at least 20 cases per day in all the locations throughout the state. So that's some of the things we're doing, at least on the court system. And it seems to be working pretty good. And interestingly enough, while we're doing this video remote hearings, we get almost 100% participation. So both parties show up versus when it's actually in court, it depends. So I think Judicial is doing an excellent job in terms of trying to keep the courts open, but more importantly, servicing the needs of the clients that we serve in Family Support Magistrate Court. And again, I can't thank Tony enough for all his efforts.
Excellent, excellent. Just waiting to see if Reverend Clayton is going to rejoin us.
No, I think Reverend Clayton had to go to another call with YCCI. But I had a question. And this, I'm just throwing this out to show you it's one of the barriers. I had a dad who was in one of my sessions because we do some virtual and we do some in person. And he was saying to me, because, and I understand, I didn't know what to tell him. He had a restraining order, Mike, against him. And so Christmas was coming up. And he was trying to say to me, DCF won't let him have any third party or any kind of connection to his children. He said, but I want to buy him Christmas presents, but I can't because the court won't allow me or DCF won't allow me to do that. And there was nothing I could tell him because there's nothing I know for him to do.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't comment on any pending cases. Yes, that's the best I can say. I can't really comment on anything pending. I know that's not the answer you're looking for, but that's the answer I'm able to give.
Yeah, okay.
So Tom, so we often hear this term responsible fatherhood, right?
Yeah.
The term responsible fatherhood, and that kind of connotates, personal responsibility, right? But at the state level, we believe that there's accountability for state agencies as well, because we have an impact on the lives of these families at the state level, and we've been taking accountability for that. And one of the things that comes from that is really looking at the way our systems, interact with these families. We haven't been very engaging. We've done some things that have pushed fathers out of the household. So we're having conversations now. We've been having conversations, but we're having more conversations around what can each state agency, because all of these, we have lots of state agencies, right? But they're all different systems and they operate differently. So we're really looking at the flaws in each of the particular agencies and looking at how can we improve that contact, how can we improve that messaging around we're working with fathers, we're working with families, we're trying to be more inviting. So it's really, all this stuff is really, it's about systems change and really the state agencies at the state level really taking accountability for some of the policy that has pushed dads out.
On that note, is it because it was established by legislative authority, the initiative program, is there an annual appropriation? Do you guys have to testify every year?
So there's multiple funding ways we've been funded over the years. So we've been able to secure federal funding from ACF to promote fatherhood. We've gotten some legislative appropriations, and we've also received funding from the DSS budget. So funding has been an issue for the statewide program at the macro level. So I think in 2006 through 2011, we were able to secure the Federal Promoting Responsible Fatherhood Grant. It was a 5-year grant for $1 million each year. And we also had our state funding. And at the time, we were getting about $250,000. So I often look at that era as the golden age for fatherhood in Connecticut, because we need money to do a lot of great things in our community. Since then, funding has been up and down. We're currently funding our programs at about $310,000, and that's for 6 programs statewide. So there's not a whole lot of money. And so one of the things that we're doing in this session is really pushing the envelope. We're amending the fatherhood legislation to include some things and to really look at how can we make sure that money is included in the appropriation for fatherhood moving forward.
Excellent. We have about eight or so minutes, everybody. So I want to give everyone a chance for last word. But Dr. Crystal, I want to kind of come back to you in terms of people that are listening. And Reverend Perry's alluded to this in terms of the Yale Center for Clinical Investigation. But why would something like YCCI be what's the connection with YCCI and fatherhood? And you've alluded to it a little bit, but I think it can't be restated too often.
Okay, so people think of YCCI, they think of someone in a white coat toying around with chemicals to find some new fundamental unit of biology. But reality, YCCI is also about how our medical community collaborates to test new kinds of interventions. So as I was listening to Mr. Judkins, I was also thinking about Dr. Derek Gordon in our department, who has got federal grants to study aspects of fatherhood, or Dr. Tom McMahon, who also has grants to study aspects of parenting and fatherhood. And so while some of our work is about basic medical biology, other parts of our work are about developing and testing support services in our community as well. And we work very closely with the state government and institutions around the development and testing of these interventions. A program called Program for Research in the Community. Larry Davidson is jointly supported by the state and federal grants, and works on some of the very problems we've been talking about: housing, employment, food security, as well as the mental health problems like drug abuse and mental illness. I think one of the key things about YCCI as a partnership is, that we recognize that our institutions, Yale, for example, or the Yale New Haven Hospital, or the Connecticut Mental Center, we have to work hard. In fact, we have to work harder to be credible, to earn the trust of our surrounding communities. And I personally thought what Reverend Perry said earlier about Black families to be very powerful, and to really exemplify why he and Reverend Clayton and others have such credibility with our community. And we need our institutions, Yale, CMHC, Yale New Haven Hospital, need people who have the kind of credibility like Reverend Perry and Reverend Clayton and others to help us to reach our surrounding community and partner more effectively with our surrounding communities in a more effective way. And that's been really important through the cultural ambassadors programs and other initiatives like that help us from being seen as other to being seen as partners. And that to me is really important.
Indeed, thank you so much. Reverend Clayton, welcome back. I know you had a call to possibly take. As we kind of wind down, I just wonder whether a few thoughts that you wanted to share, and knowing that you haven't heard all of the things that took place where you had to take your phone call.
Thank you, Tom. I just want to echo some of the things that I've heard this morning. And as a pastor, we know and understand that there are layers, many layers to the lives of some of these young men that we may not see. All we see is the surface. And as stated earlier, some need employment, some need housing, some may have just come home from being incarcerated. And then you have the situations in their home life where people think they're a deadbeat when all they need is some direction and some guidance. And so my prayer is that the men would understand themselves that the problem is just not one thing, but be wise enough to tell somebody, I need help. Mm-hmm. And we pray that the women in their lives, whether it's their significant other or a mother or aunt, will see that it's bigger than just what's on the surface. And this fatherhood program is one of the avenues that have helped so many brothers get to a good place. And it's nothing wrong with seeking help if you're stressed. There's nothing wrong with seeking a psychiatrist if you have that problem. If your tire is flat, you fix it. So we direct people to the proper places so that they can get the proper treatment, so that their lives will be stable and on solid footing.
Excellent. Mike, I want to give you a chance for a kind of last word to Reverend Perry as well, and then Reverend Judge. Reverend Judge, you're now been anointed and appointed just for your community service. But I want to give you the final word. But Michael?
Tom, again, I want to thank you for the invite. And it's always a pleasure to see you. I haven't seen you in quite some time. But, and more importantly, I appreciate you having this topic about the Black and brown men that are having these issues. And I greatly appreciate the fact that you included the court system, because with that, I'm hoping that whoever's listening, that I kind of dispelled some of the rumors that you're going to child support, you're going to jail. That's not the case. And in conjunction with the work that Anthony's doing with the Father Initiative program, we're able to actually refer some of these individuals to the programs. And they also have programs in Hartford and New Haven. They're just not funded through the state, some of them. And by directing these individuals to these programs, these Father Initiative programs, they hopefully will be able to get the help they need, whether it's housing, medical, employment, or just how to parent. And so again, Tom, I thank you for having this topic and inviting me along with the other participants. Thank you.
It's our pleasure. I'm really glad to kind of be able to kind of be part of this progressive movement. Reverend Perry?
Yes, Tom. I want to piggyback on a couple of things. One, that with Pastor Clayton is correct, I believe, when he says that we can't blame everything on the ills of the world, but that we have to, whatever the ills of the world are, we've got to take a stand for ourselves and take charge of our health and our existential destiny. So for me, I look at Yale YCCI has helped me to look at social determinants of health. Mm-hmm. And that's something that we don't really consider a lot. But when you look at social determinants of health, you can go back and see children who were brought up in certain zip codes and some of the traumas that they may have had to deal with, bullying or drugs or abuse, and how that filtered out through the school led to lack of attention or lack of self-esteem. We've got to go back and look at some of these social determinants of health and help people to see the historicity of them, and at the same time to empower them to go beyond, the shackles and the chains and the trauma, to become responsible adults, taking responsibility for who they will become and who they are in the world. And I think that's what we need to be right now.
Excellent, excellent. Tony, just before I come to you, I just want to thank everybody, because I want you to have the last word, and I want you to keep on talking until you hear the music, because Harry will play the music, and that'll mean that you can keep talking, but we won't be on the air much longer. But Dr. Crystal, thank you so much for joining us. Reverend Clayton, thanks so much. Honorable Michael L. Ferguson, it's really a pleasure to see you again. But Tony, kind of the last words, and again, we have about 2 or 3 minutes before Harry plays the music.
Sure. Sure. No. I think it's, I enjoyed the conversation today, and I think the mixture of speakers here today really exemplifies what we've been trying to do as an initiative for the last 20 years, is really getting all different systems in the room, because fatherhood, whether people believe it or not, is in everything that we do. Mm-hmm. And that is the truth. People don't understand it, but it's in everything that we do. I think it's important that Chief Magistrate Ferguson is on this call, because he's changing the culture at the judicial system. A lot of times, folks, like, I know when I went up before the judge when I was a teenager and had a child support case, it was terrifying. And I didn't feel like I was supported. I didn't feel like I was heard. Now, at least we have the opportunity to be heard, to be heard in our community with the programming, as well as when we go into the courts. At least we can be heard now. And that's all we're asking for, is to be heard. I think the final thing that I'll say is fatherhood is redemptive, right? You can make a lot of mistakes, but you always have a chance to come back from those and reconnect with your kids. Your children will have the last word as to how good of a parent you are. And that's all I'll say. I'll leave it at that. Your children have the last word.
Excellent, excellent. Everyone, thank you so much. Dr. Crystal, thanks for mentioning Derek Gordon's name. We got to get Derek on the show. I'm glad you mentioned him. We're right. Friends.
Dr. Gordon was my researcher on our project.
Oh, there you go. We got to do a reprise, and that's the key. There's so many of our allies and friends that are out here who want to make this globe a safe and healthy place for everybody. Thank you so much, everyone. You hear the music, you know what that means.
To WNHHLP 103.5 FM.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Telling some riddles now. I'm in my section, ain't willing to give up. Know you getting knocked down, but you gotta get up.